Bills fans are actually pissed at the referee crew that got assigned for their matchup against Kansas City this Sunday, and it's actually a ref that the Chiefs have found some great success with. So we got to talk about that. Willie Gay Jr. basically announcing he's sadly most likely moving on next season. Jason Kelce not quite retiring, yet Mahomes being an underdog, which is actually great news, and I'll explain why and much freaking more. But first, how about those? All right, with the Chiefs set to face off against the Bills on Sunday night, KC will have their first ever road playoff game in the Mahomes era. And some, of course, are saying, well, Mahomes is finally going to get exposed now that he isn't playing in the comfort of Arrowhead with home field advantage featuring an abundance of very loud Chiefs fans. But I'm not sure it really matters to Patrick Mahomes and company, because the stats show he's basically just as good playing on the road as he is at home. Brad Spielberger of PFF actually did the digging for us here when he shared that Mahomes' road record all time is 38-11, a win percentage of 77.6. At home, he's 47-13, a 78.3 win percentage. So we are talking about a difference of 0.7%. Yes, that is less than 1%. On top of that, the Chiefs obviously will have 2 extra days of rest due to the fact that they played on Saturday and the Bills and Steelers game was supposed to be on Sunday and got moved to Monday because of the weather. Then if you combine that with the fact that the Bills are by far the more injured team of the two, especially on defense, this is going to be a much harder game for the Bills than some want to admit. I mean, sure, the Bills are currently favorites, and rightly so, in my opinion. They're slight favorites. They are playing at home, are the 2 seed, just beat KC by 3 back in December, and after defeating the Steelers in the wild card round, have now won 6 games in a row, which is pretty impressive. So I'm fine with that. Chiefs are underdogs. But guess what? It doesn't matter. The Chiefs were underdogs at home last year against the Bengals, which is honestly disrespectful as hell, but those ringless peasants can still hold that L as they once again watch the Chiefs play while they rest up in Cancun. The Chiefs were also underdogs shortly after that in the Super Bowl against the Eagles, and Prick Sirianni can also hold that L, even though he won their Super Bowl regular season championship rematch in week 11 of this season, then proceeded to go 2-6 after screaming at Chiefs fans like a child. All in all, the Chiefs are 8-1-1 against the spread as an underdog when Mahomes has led the charge. So again, I would not worry about the underdog thing or really worry about them not playing at home. Mahomes sure isn't worried about it, because when asked about this very thing, he replied in an interview with 810 Sports saying, "I go into every game with the same mindset, and that's to go out there and win." So there you have it. I mean, sure, Bills Mafia is going to show up and be pretty loud. They are a very dedicated fan base, but if you think Mahomes and company are afraid, think again. I personally wouldn't want it any other way, as it's always an exciting game when both of these teams play each other. And on the subject of underdogs, I gotta shout out the season-long sponsor of the channel, Underdog Fantasy, the best and easiest place to play fantasy sports. Right now, they have a bunch of tournaments going on for the playoffs, as well as specific tournaments going on for particular days of the divisional round, one for Saturday and one for Sunday. And all of these tournaments are super easy to play and only take around 3 to 6 minutes to complete. So make sure to check these out ASAP. And don't forget that any new customer who signs up using code HBTC or the sign up link in the description will get a 100% deposit match up to $100, as well as a pick'em special in the lobby. These specials are pretty much always easy W's to help you win up to 20x on your money by picking higher or lower on your favorite player's stats. And you can even spice up your pick'ems with scorchers and boost your total payout up to 100x on your pick'em entries, which is insane. And for this Chiefs and Bills game specifically, in the divisional round, I'm rolling with Mahomes getting more than 27.5 rushing yards because he uses his legs a lot more in the playoffs. Noah Gray, he's going to get more, higher than 8.5 receiving yards, in my opinion, because of the attention being paid to Kelce and Rice. Then Stephon Diggs is getting lower than 64.5 receiving yards, which is what he's done in 7 of the last 9 games, and was well below that the last time the Chiefs and Bills played in December. CEH, then, I'm going with him getting higher than 4.5 receiving yards, which is exactly what he's done every single week since December 3rd. Then, of course, I'm going higher on Butker making 1.5 field goals because he's made more than than one field goal in 5 of the last 7 games. So make sure to head on over to the Underdog website or app. Both are super easy to navigate, and use code HBTC at sign up to get your first deposit of up to $100 matched plus a pick'em special in the lobby. All right, a couple days ago, Chiefs linebacker Willie Gay Jr. took to his X account in the middle of the Bills and Steelers game, as it was pretty obvious by that point in the game the Bills were going to win, which meant Kansas City was going to have to travel to Buffalo for the next game, and he let everybody know it looks like he's played his last game in Arrowhead, noting that he's going to miss it as, quote, "there's nothing like it." And that probably means he knows the direction the team will be going in the offseason, at least with him, and it's not looking likely at the moment in his eyes that he will return. And while Willie has been a solid player for the team, a very athletic linebacker, the Chiefs can't pay everyone, and I would imagine they try and work out a long-term deal with Nick Bolton this offseason. Then maybe talk with Drue Tranquill about a return, then trust in Cam Jones and Leo Chenal to step up. Then there's also the draft where they can add more. That's a convo for another time. However, it's worth mentioning that Willie Gay may not have played his last game at Arrowhead, because if the Chiefs beat the Bills and the Texans manage to beat the Ravens, the Chiefs would then host their 6th AFC Championship game in a row at Arrowhead. So we can't jump to conclusions just yet about that officially being Willie Gay Jr.'s last game at Arrowhead. From here, immediately after the Eagles lost to the Buccaneers, it was reported by Adam Schefter that Jason Kelce in the locker room basically announced his retirement, to which everybody and their mom, myself included, shared Schefter's report about this. Well, today on the New Heights podcast, Jason said that's not exactly what went down.
I didn't announce what I was doing on purpose, despite, I guess, what's been leaked to the media.
He went on to say that some people may have been reading his body language in the moment. However, he doesn't think it's the best idea immediately after a game to make a decision like that right then and there. When the time is right, if he makes that decision this offseason, it will be done in a way that's definitive and pay respect to many people that's meant a lot to him. And while he said that's a decision to be made later, Jason definitely got choked up shortly after this, and it was a pretty emotional moment between both Jason and his brother Travis.
A lot of guys like, if that is your last game, I feel sorry for you. And I'm like, don't feel sorry for me, motherfuckers. I had a fucking...
Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah, man. And we'll all be at the edge of our fucking seat waiting on what decision you end up making, big guy.
I'm not crying. You are. I just found it worth mentioning that Jason Kelce has not yet made an official decision, in spite of what the reports initially made things seem. Anyway, enough of this sad talk, because it's time to move on to mad talk. Bills Mafia. They are not happy with the referee crew assigned to the Chiefs and Bills game this Sunday, with the head ref being Shawn Hochuli. And the reason why they don't like him, per the words of a Bills Mafia podcast, is because he last officiated the Bills loss in Philly, where he called the intentional grounding, missed horse collar, and A.J. Brown's fumble as a non-fumble. Then on top of that, the Bills had 11 penalties for 80 yards. I guess Hochuli is known to them for calling a penalty-filled game, as he's called 347 yards and penalties on the Bills in their last 4 games he's officiated for them. On the flip side, though, the Chiefs are 8-2 with Hochuli in the Mahomes era, and that includes 2-0 in the playoffs. So hey, I kind of love it, but at the end of the day, all I'm actually wanting, praying, and hoping for is a cleanly officiated game that doesn't tilt too much in favor of one team or the other, and also for Kadarius Toney to keep his damn toes on the other side of the line, please and thank you. That is, if Kadarius Toney even plays. Speaking of Toney, Andy Reid noted today in his presser that both wide receiver Justin Ross and Kadarius Toney are back working today at practice, which is 2 receivers who did not play in the Dolphins game. And while I would assume Justin Ross may play this week, albeit in a pretty limited capacity, I'm less sure about Kadarius Toney, considering he's now missed 4 games in a row due to this hip injury he's been working through. He would try and practice one day in the previous weeks, then not practice the next couple of days, and it's sort of been like that until last week, when Toney was actually a limited participant all week long, was listed as questionable to play, but then was inactive on game day. So I'm not going to read too much into Toney working this week at the moment. When Andy was asked about them progressing enough to play Sunday, talking about Justin Ross and Toney, Andy basically said he's going to take it day by day with them, which basically means nothing to me right now. Another receiver Andy Reid mentioned was Skyy Moore, saying his 21-day window to return from IR opened up, which means he could potentially return and play in this Sunday's game. You can see here in this clip from Aaron Ladd that it looks like he's moving around pretty nicely, though he was a limited participant at today's practice. Now, will that help the team at all on Sunday if Skyy was indeed activated and able to play? Probably not much. However, he could be around as depth in case of injuries that hopefully will not happen in this game, but with the status of Toney and Ross uncertain, if they aren't able to go Sunday, I think it would be worth having Skyy suit up if the team thinks he's ready to, just have available in case of emergency at the very least. And to keep the injury train rolling, Andy said the only two players that would not practice today were Derek Nottie, tricep, and Cam Jones, chest. Both of these guys got banged up in the wild card game against the Dolphins, so we shall see how serious those injuries are. And if they're bad enough, I would assume the Chiefs place them on IR someday soon here and maybe sign a practice squad player or two to the active 53-man roster for depth purposes and special teams. They did indeed just recently sign someone, by the way, with that being former Jets safety Trey Dean, per his own agents in a post on Instagram. Dean is an undrafted rookie out of the University of Florida, and while he didn't make the Jets 53-man roster, he did sign with their practice squad where he remained throughout the entire regular season. The Jets reportedly wanted him back in 2024, but he opted not to sign a reserve future contract with them and became an unrestricted free agent instead. And alas, he is now a Kansas City Chief. And while he was in KC visiting yesterday, it's currently, at least as of when I record this video, at 4:40 p.m. on Wednesday, whether or not this is a futures deal or him signing to the practice squad. But with initial reports saying he could potentially play in the playoffs, I would think this is actually a practice squad signing, at least at this very moment, until we know more. Well, just 30 minutes after making this video, I found out from Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest that the Chiefs did indeed sign safety Trey Dean to the practice squad, and to make room for him on the practice squad, they elevated linebacker Cole Christensen to the active roster. And how they were able to do that is they actually placed linebacker Cam Jones on IR, ending his season. It's a chest injury that happened against the Dolphins wildcard game. So they placed Cam Jones on IR, elevate linebacker Cole Christensen, and then they had a spot open on the practice squad, to which they did indeed sign safety Trey Dean. So shout out to Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest for this information. He also announced that the Chiefs signed 2 players to reserve future deals. We'll probably talk about them more in a later video, but they did sign a cornerback, Kelvin Joseph, a 2021 second-round pick for the Cowboys, and then they signed wide receiver Shi Smith, one of those names. He was a 2021 6th-round pick for the Panthers, signed with Kansas City today as well. So there's a couple of, really a flurry of roster moves that just happened and was announced, of course, right after I filmed this video. And before I get out of here, it's worth noting that offensive tackle Willie Gay Jr was spotted back out at practice today, which means he has cleared concussion protocol and should be good to play against a pretty decent Bills defensive line this weekend if he's needed. I would assume the Chiefs continue to roll with the veteran Donovan Smith, but having Wanye back is great depth to have in a game where injuries could happen on any given play. And with all that being said, what are your current thoughts on the Chiefs and Bills matchup this Sunday overall as things stand right now? Let me know your thoughts as well as score predictions in the comments down below. And until next time, let's freaking go. How about those